So right now we're going to launch a video series, really, that's going to prove that I did not prepare this beforehand. All right, so when it comes to these parts where they come together, you need to look at how they're going together. See, these have the greaves to get attached to the legs. There's going to be a part that's going to be covered there, and as we can see, where I cut the greaves out, you see where I had to lose focus. You see the top of the greave, there's that. That's going to get pinned up against the other piece. So we got a technique by which I prove that I don't have a stand for my camera. Well, that ain't going to work. Anywho, there's a technique called back knifing, where if I can just, here we go. All right, and you see where this bit of crap from the sprue was? Back knifing is where we take the edge of the blade, you see where the bevel is, and we scrape back. You can see by the shards here on my finger, if I can get it back into focus, that it did take some crap off. Then we rub at it a little bit to clear off any extra scurf there. Yeah, or you can just blow on it. That'll get other stuff off there. When it comes to these parts, just like a drop or two will do it. So we're gonna run a thin film over the attachment points. Now you can see there's this kind of square-ish socket right there, and that might have been a bit too much glue, but that'll be fine. And then on the shin of this leg, you see that square socket? That's gonna attach right on there. When it comes to intricate pieces and intricate models, it might be a good idea to dry fit them before assembly. See that pushed right on there. All right. So what you want with plastic cement is you want to put a little bit on there and then give it a moment, and it'll actually start to dissolve the surface a little bit. And that's fine. When you press the new piece on there, it'll literally melt them together. So they literally become one piece, as if it left the mold like that, which is going to give you a superior bond. As long as you're not those kind of people that sit there and they decide, oh, well, I'm going to change the loadout on painted models, and you got to crack them off and then reattach them with the super glue, and then you got to repaint. It just seems like a hassle. So if you want to build your models for permanence and not, popping apart all the time, and you don't mind not being able to change the configuration later on, it's a definite argument for the plastic cement. Some models, like the entire Tau range, you have small pieces that they change how the model works. Like the old multi-tracker allowed a battle suit to split its shots between two targets. Like you want to put your plasma gun on target A and your pulse cannon or whatever the hell on target B. Well, you could split that fire with that. Now it has like a different it does something different from what I understand. So Tau players kind of still have that model on, that piece on there. Now you can always say, hey, look, it might look like it's got a multi-tracker, but it's not on there. That would technically be a violation of WYSIWYG, which is an acronym for what you see is what you get. It keeps people, and WYSIWYG is important, really, as it does keep people from changing their loadout on their model from round to round. You've got a cultist model, say, and it's got a las gun modeled on there, and you say, oh well, it's really carrying a flamethrower. Well, I've seen people go from that model, it counts as a flamethrower, going to it counts as a melt-a-gun the next round, which is a wildly different piece of equipment. So now that we have our, I've got the Battle Brother largely assembled here. So we got the torso and the legs together. Now, this can be a good opportunity. Now, when you have smaller parts and you've got to remove the flash, it can be fiddly and dangerous for your fingers, quite frankly. All right. This model in particular, yeah, I've got two here actually I've been working on. This one has actually been sort of assembled for 3 hours or so, which is perfectly good time for curing. Now, the smaller bits of flash, like what's attached here, this can now is more, it's much safer to take it off now. So we're going to have the knife forward for this one. Just little fiddly nonsense. See, nice and smooth. Visually, it looks like the surface is marred, but when we go to paint, it'll just be covered up. Just like if you ever worked in the metal industry and you see some part that needed to be had a bit of rust on it, and you take an orbit sander to it and then send it off to paint, no one's going to see that shit. And with that word, I know I cannot monetize this video. It's a good thing I don't need those sweet, sweet YouTube dollars, as I, unlike many people on YouTube, am gainfully employed. All right, clean that. You want to make sure your point of contact where you attach limbs, it is flattish. Sometimes there'll be a tab there, so you don't need to worry about it, or you got to clean up around it, or make sure the tab's not deformed, like it has like a chunk of sprue hanging off of it. And a good example is on this bolt gun, bolt rifle, whatever. It would help if I moved it into Vision, huh? Now you see the end of the hand. It's got a square socket, and then you'll see there's like a little square tab, and those will fit in together like so. So some models will have the thing where you can just line it up and the whole thing will slide into the torso all nice and gentle, and it's great. I'm not gonna lie. But others will not, and we will get to that part of the video in a moment. And we're gonna put like just a little dab of glue there. And then we're gonna get that on there. Now I've covered the tab in glue, kind of pushed that in there. If you can see, it's got that slight wet consistency. I'm just gonna put just a tiny hair more on there. Now we're gonna give that just a few seconds to kind of get that kind of soaked in there, and then we're gonna pop it in. Now these are nice because the square tabs actually make it so that the arms are almost perfectly aligned. Okay, and I'm gonna take the contact point here, use the tip of the probe to smear glue on the contact points, right? And give that a couple moments to burn in. We're actually working on, as a working surface, the hobby table that I'm working on. You can see I'm working on my detachable legs. There's the kit. I got it off Amazon. I'll let you guys know how that turned out. Okay, I just realized I was filming that upside down, like some kind of a jackass. Going back to my original point. So many drill things. So those are blocks, because the way the table folds down, right, the working surface here, I can't really have the legs detach and screw directly to the detachable segment to the tabletop, because it's only 3/4 inch, which, if you know anything about the hardware store, you get your sheets of plywood and it says 3/4, but it's actually 21/32 of an inch, because they will try to rob you of an entire 1/16 of an inch of plywood and call it something it's not. Just like your 2x4s are only going to be 3.5 inches across and 1 3/4 inch thick, which is stupid unless you go to some sort of hardware store that I have no access to. Alright, so that is sat long enough. Alright, so for this type of model, we're going to take it, and I'm going to zoom out because I realize I'm setting everybody up for failure here. So we're going to take our model, slide the arms into place, get the arms lined up where the armholes would be. Yeah, that's about right. Now, when it comes to Space Marines, you don't have to worry too much about a small amount of gap in the back here, because you're going to hide that underneath the pauldrons anyway. If there's anything the Imperium loves more than aircraft shaped like bricks, it's pauldrons. And if your models are big enough, the pauldrons will have weapons attached to them. It's fantastic. Clearly, the designers who come up with this stuff are unhinged. And I'm here for it. I really am. Alright, now that his arms are lined up. No, they're not. Okay, there we go. I bring it up. Now, you'll notice, if you pay attention here, I'm gonna okay, apparently I will fail to... Now see, we're still at the point where the glue is a liquid. Now if you have any overages, you can take your finger and wipe it off to make sure you don't drag it across a finished surface. If you're playing orcs, it's not as much of a big deal because, you know, they're supposed to be kind of gross looking. Though I would not deliberately drag material across. There. Now I can set him aside. I do a method that some of you might want to follow. And for another person, I'm going to drop some bags off for him, I think. Where, a perfect example, I'm doing this haphazard Primaris Intercessor thing for the purposes of making this video. But my Grey Knights here are one that I've, it's a project for my own, and I had paid attention from the get-go, and I'd always intended on. When it comes to the models, right? Like, we'll start with the Justicar, which is like the Sergeant. It's got a set way in which your, I'm trying to figure out which way is up. You know, specific numbered parts go together. Is there some grease in my lens there? Yes. My fingerprints like an idiot. So you can use any number front torso on this boy. And then the specific back one, because the psychic code's a little bigger. Together, and those yellow lines are glue lines. Damn it. Yeah. The gluing surface. And then onto the legs, and then the legs onto the base. Like so. Though I've already done the head on this one. This is the one I'm going to show you where to do the weapons thing, where the arms and the weapons are completely unattached. This one we're going to be doing the Thunder Hammer. Now I gathered all my parts cut out by the numbers. I planned out which way I was going to set this up. And I cut out the very specific parts I was going to use for this model. And I placed them in a sandwich baggie. And I put a number on it. That was then Justicar was the 9th one I cut out. I should know which one he is because, well, quite frankly, I give my Justicar's Thunder Hammers because, well, they hit harder. And I love hammers. Ask anyone I work with. So we're 16 and a half minutes in. No, more than 16 and a half minutes. Anyway, I'm going to shut the hell up. I'm going to show you how to properly attach these arms. Yeah, I need to get one of those camera stand things. I can just attach my phone to it and good to go. Yeah, now little extra bits, the flourishes on there, like the little heraldic plates for the Justicar and such like that. That's going to wait till last, so I don't know why that was out of the bag. Alright, so once again, we see our attachment point. Take the knife forward and gently scrape away the flash where the two parts came together and the bits of sprue that are still on there. You just want to barely scrape it away. You can even back knife it. Back knifing is safer for your fingers, mind you. So, and then see here where it was not quite even, and I managed to level the surface. Anybody that tells me I can't do deburring operations in whatever place I'm working at is, I grasped the concept clearly. All right, so I'm gonna put. Wait, why am I using that glue? I should be. Well, that's the same principle as the other glue. I don't know where my tester's tube of plastic cement is at. I also use this, the non-toxic liquid cement. It's basically the same as the red tube, just a little bit thinner. Just a little too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the arm and I'm going to swipe the point of contact on there. See? Now I got two surfaces. The dot. Let's do it again. Alright, so here we go. Now, while it's still liquid and while it's not going to set totally, I'm going to go ahead and attach these. Okay, and apparently you want to stay attached because it's not ready to be attached. I'm going to take a little bit here and here. And then where that wrist ends there. And where that wrist ends. It is quite tricky to get that on there, but I refer to my instructions. Try to get my angles right. It'll be all right. Take the thunder hammer by the head. Okay, and that's the left hand. So I'm gonna line that up. And go wrist to hand on either side. Just utter pain, but worth it. Oh, okay. So I'm pushing the left hand on the Stormbolter side, mind you, up. And I got that in there, right? And I can kind of rotate the arm down until we're bringing the wrist and hand into contact on the other side. This is more of a pain in the butt than I had remembered. All right. So now that we got that thunder hammer attached there, kind of gonna bring that down and get proper alignment. Now, where you press the model together, you might have like a small bulge where the melted plastic gets kind of pushed out a little bit. As long as it's not too bad, you can kind of ignore it. And I'm sure over time you'll develop your own technique. Maybe probably one that's better than mine, to be honest. All right. So that is on there properly. All right, that is it for this video. I don't know if you can properly see that. There we go. Wrist in, and kind of hard to see, but wrist in. If I turn it like that, and I see flash lines like there on the shoulder. You can see that where I clipped it from the sprue, and there's a flat spot, and there's a line coming up of flash. That I'm going to back knife away. I will introduce that in another video, but right now I'm over 25 minutes, so I will stop.